Here's the first part of your story in simple English, written in third-person style without headings and around 650 words. The stars glittered like diamonds against the black canvas of space as the exploration vessel Horizon cut through the void. Captain Jack Miller stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of monitors. After decades of preparation, humanity had finally achieved faster-than-light travel, and the Horizon represented Earth's greatest achievement, a ship designed to reach beyond our solar system and discover what waited in the darkness beyond. "Captain, we're picking up unusual energy signatures," called out Officer Ben, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "Nothing like we've seen before." Miller leaned forward, his blue eyes narrowing. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, displaying a massive structure floating in space. It was clearly artificial, a sprawling space station with elegant spires and glowing energy fields. It dwarfed the Horizon in both size and apparent technological sophistication. "My God," whispered Dr. Lisa West, the ship's chief scientist. She brushed her short brown hair from her eyes, not wanting to miss a single detail. "We're not alone." Before Miller could respond, the communication system crackled. A deep, resonant voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered Arcturian space. State your purpose." Miller exchanged glances with his crew before stepping forward. "This is Captain Jack Miller of the Earth vessel Horizon. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration." A tense silence followed. Then, without warning, a beam of light enveloped the bridge, and a tall figure materialized before them. The alien stood nearly 7 feet tall, with smooth gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes, 3 of them, blinked slowly as it surveyed the humans. "I am Ambassador Torque of the Arcturian Federation," the being announced. "Your primitive vessel has drawn our attention." The crew stared in stunned silence. First contact. After centuries of wondering, humanity finally had its answer. They were not alone in the universe. In the days that followed, Miller and his crew learned much about the Arcturians. They controlled a vast galactic federation spanning hundreds of worlds. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's best achievements, and they viewed humans as barely evolved primates who had stumbled upon the stars through luck rather than intellect. "Your species shows potential," Torque explained during a meeting with Earth's United Council, which had been hastily assembled via holographic link. "We offer you protection and guidance. In exchange, Earth will become a protectorate of the Arcturian Federation." The terms seemed reasonable at first. The Arcturians would share some technology and protect Earth from hostile elements in the galaxy. But Dr. West noticed something odd in the agreement. "They want access to all our genetic material," she told Miller privately. "And look at Section 12. Earth would be required to provide biological resources upon request." Miller frowned. "You think they want more than a friendly alliance?" "I think they want to own us," West replied. "This isn't a protection agreement. It's a surrender document." When the council reconvened, Miller presented West's findings. The hidden clauses would effectively reduce humans to servants, or worse, specimens for Arcturian study. "We respectfully decline your offer, Ambassador," announced Council President James. "Earth wishes to engage with the galactic community as equals, not subjects." Torque's 3 eyes narrowed dangerously. "A regrettable decision. You mistake our generosity for negotiation." The ambassador's voice had lost all warmth. "Earth is now classified as a rogue planet. You have 6 days to reconsider before the Arcturian Federation takes appropriate measures." As Torque vanished from the chamber, panic erupted among the council members. Some called for immediate surrender, fearing extinction. Others demanded military preparation. Miller watched silently, understanding that humanity stood at a crossroads. The Arcturians thought humans were weak, too primitive to resist, too foolish to recognize their own limitations. "They're wrong," he said quietly to West. They think superior technology makes them superior beings. West nodded, and that mistake will cost them. Neither knew how right they were, or how the coming conflict would reshape the galaxy. The Arcturians had dismissed humanity as weak. Soon, they would learn just how wrong they had been. 6 months had passed since Earth rejected the Arcturian protection offer. 6 months of preparation for a war everyone knew was coming but few believed could be won. The first Arcturian ships appeared without warning, massive vessels that darkened the skies over major cities. They didn't attack immediately. Instead, they simply waited, forming an impenetrable blockade around Earth. "They're starving us out," Miller told Dr. West as they watched supply ships being turned back from orbit. The Horizon Asterisk, once a vessel of exploration, now sat in a hangar being fitted with experimental weapons. "How's the retrofitting coming?" he asked, running his hand along the ship's hull. West smiled faintly. "We've installed the pulse cannons. They won't expect them." The Arcturians dismissed our energy research as primitive. "Their mistake," Miller replied. "When do we launch?" 2 days. If we can break through their line, we might." Alarms blared throughout the facility, cutting her off. Red emergency lights flashed as a voice boomed over the speakers. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, all personnel to battle stations." The Arcturians had finally lost patience. Their attack was swift and devastating. Earth's orbital defenses, hastily constructed and untested, fell within hours. The night sky lit up with explosions as humanity's first line of defense crumbled. Tom Reed watched from the streets of Chicago, his face grim as burning debris rained from the heavens. A former Marine, Reed had been preparing for this day, gathering like-minded citizens and stockpiling weapons. "They're coming," he told his small band of fighters. "Today we find out what we're made of." The ground invasion began at dawn. Arcturian dropships descended like metallic insects, disgorging troops in gleaming armor. Their weapons fired streams of blue energy that melted concrete and steel. At the research facility, Miller fought desperately to reach the launch bay where the Horizon Asterisk waited. He'd lost contact with West hours ago, when Arcturian forces breached the East Wing. "Dr. West's lab has been taken," reported his communications officer. "They've captured her, sir." Miller's jaw tightened. "Change of plans. We're not breaking the blockade today. We're getting West back." Across the city, Reed watched through binoculars as Arcturian troops established a control zone, herding civilians into processing centers. Their alien voices boomed through translators. "Resistance is futile. Accept Arcturian authority, and you will be treated humanely." "Humanely?" Reed spat. "Like animals in a zoo." He signaled to his fighters, who moved silently through the ruins. They had studied the Arcturian patrol patterns and found something unexpected. The aliens relied heavily on predetermined routines and showed little adaptability when faced with the unexpected. Reed's first ambush took down an Arcturian patrol using nothing more sophisticated than tripwires and repurposed mining explosives. To his surprise, the aliens' advanced armor proved vulnerable to good old-fashioned kinetic force. They never expected to be challenged, he told his growing band of resistance fighters. Their weakness is their arrogance. Meanwhile, Miller led a small team into the occupied research facility. They moved through maintenance tunnels the Arcturians had deemed too small to secure, using their knowledge of human architecture to outmaneuver the invaders. They found West's lab ransacked. Equipment lay broken on the floor, and research data had been downloaded. But signs of struggle suggested West hadn't surrendered easily. Captain Miller called one of his team, pointing to a blood smear on a console. Next to it, barely visible, West had left a message. "Neural synchronization is the key." Miller's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "They didn't take everything," he whispered. "They left behind what they thought was irrelevant." He turned to his team. "We're breaking West out. And when we do, we're going to show these Arcturians exactly what humans are capable of when backed into a corner. Outside, the sky burned orange as cities around the world fell under Arcturian control. Earth seemed defeated, but beneath the surface, humanity was just beginning to fight back. The screech of metal against metal filled the abandoned subway tunnel as Miller and his team cut through the final barrier separating them from the Arcturian holding facility. 3 weeks had passed since Dr. West's capture, and intelligence suggested she was being held for special interrogation due to her scientific knowledge. 30 seconds, whispered Jones, the team's explosives expert. Miller nodded, checking his makeshift pulse rifle, a weapon cobbled together from salvaged Arcturian parts and human ingenuity. The rescue team consisted of just 6 people, all that could be spared from the growing resistance. The barrier fell with a dull thud, and they moved in silently. The Arcturian facility had once been a government research lab, now converted into a processing center for human captives. Guards patrolled in predictable patterns, their 3 eyes scanning with cold efficiency. Miller's team slipped past the first patrol using timing they had practiced dozens of times. When they reached the high-security section, Jones deployed a small device West had designed before her capture, an electromagnetic pulse tuned specifically to Arcturian communication frequencies. For 30 precious seconds, the aliens were cut off from each other. It was all the time Miller needed. They found West in a laboratory, surrounded by Arcturian scientists who seemed to be studying her rather than interrogating her. When the humans burst in, West was already moving, as if she had been waiting for this moment. She grabbed a data drive and nodded to Miller. "We need to go," she said simply. Her face was thinner, marked with new lines of exhaustion, but her eyes burned with intensity. Their escape was chaotic but successful. Only after they reached the safety of the resistance base did West reveal what she had discovered. "They underestimated us," she explained, projecting data onto a cracked wall. "Humans have a unique neural pattern that allows for unprecedented synchronization with machines. The Arcturians can't do it. Their brains are too specialized, too rigid." She displayed brain scans comparing human and Arcturian neural patterns. "They evolved for efficiency, we evolved for adaptability. And that's why we're going to win." Across the city, Tom Reed was making a similar discovery through trial and error. His resistance fighters had captured several pieces of Arcturian technology and found that humans could operate them with surprising effectiveness. "Their weapons expect Arcturian users," Reed told his growing band of fighters. "But our brains are more flexible. We can adapt to their tech faster than they can counter our methods." Reed's forces began using captured Arcturian weapons alongside human firearms, creating hybrid tactics the aliens couldn't predict. Small victories multiplied as resistance cells shared information through hidden networks. When Miller brought West to meet Reed, the 2 resistance leaders immediately recognized their complementary approaches. West provided the scientific understanding, Reed the practical application. "We need to mass-produce these," West said, showing Reed her latest design, a neural interface that allowed humans to control Arcturian machinery. "With enough of these, we can turn their own technology against them." The breakthrough came 3 months into the occupation. West completed the first prototype of what she called a sync suit, a neural interface combined with salvaged Arcturian armor. The human wearing it could process information at speeds that rivaled Arcturian battle computers. Reed volunteered for the first field test. His target, an Arcturian command post in downtown Chicago. The aliens never saw him coming. Reed moved with enhanced speed and strength, his human brain adapting to the suit's capabilities in ways the Arcturians couldn't comprehend. Within 20 minutes, he had captured the entire facility intact. Word of the victory spread through resistance channels worldwide. More importantly, the captured command post provided access to Arcturian battle plans and communications. General Vex, the Arcturian commander in charge of Earth's subjugation, received the news with disbelief. "Impossible," he growled at his subordinates. "These primitives could not have taken a secured facility." His communication officer shifted nervously. "Sir, there are reports of similar breaches in London, Tokyo, and Nairobi. The humans are adapting." For the first time since the invasion began, uncertainty flickered in the general's three eyes. The easy victory he had promised his superiors was slipping away, and the primitives they had dismissed were proving unexpectedly resilient. 1 year into the war, Earth had transformed. Cities lay in ruins, but beneath the rubble and between the abandoned buildings, humanity had built a new kind of civilization, one dedicated entirely to resistance. Captain Miller, now known as Commander Miller, stood on the bridge of the Horizon Asterisk. The once exploratory vessel had been completely retrofitted with hybrid technology, human creativity married to salvaged Arcturian systems. 5 similar ships floated nearby, a small fleet born from desperation and ingenuity. "All ships report ready, sir," said his communications officer. Miller nodded. "Commence Operation Thunderbolt." The small human fleet accelerated toward the Arcturian blockade. By conventional military logic, 6 ships attacking a blockade of hundreds was suicide. But humans had stopped thinking conventionally months ago. "Deploy the drone swarms," Miller ordered. Thousands of tiny drones, each no bigger than a bee, burst from the ship's launch tubes. Dr. West had designed them to infiltrate Arcturian systems using the neural synchronization technology that had become humanity's greatest weapon. On the Arcturian command ship, alarms blared as systems began failing in unpredictable patterns. Their battle algorithms, designed to counter traditional attacks, couldn't adapt to the seemingly random nature of the human assault. "Their tactics make no sense," complained an Arcturian officer. "They're attacking our waste disposal systems, life support redundancies, and tertiary power couplings simultaneously." General Vex growled in frustration, "Because they're not following any tactical doctrine. Each human acts independently instead of following a central battle plan." This was humanity's advantage, unpredictability born from individual initiative. While Arcturian forces operated with perfect coordination, they struggled against enemies who didn't follow logical patterns. On Earth, Tom Reed led the ground assault. 5,000 fighters wearing sync suits that West had mass-produced in hidden factories across the globe struck simultaneously at Arcturian control centers. Reed moved through the Chicago control zone, his enhanced reflexes making Arcturian weapons seem slow and clumsy. His team had specific objectives: capture alien technology intact and secure staging areas for the next phase. "Command center secured," Reed reported, standing amid unconscious Arcturian soldiers. His team had used non-lethal tactics where possible, another decision that confused the aliens, who expected either surrender or extermination. The coordinated strikes liberated major population centers across Earth in a single day. As news spread, humans emerged from hiding to join the resistance. The tide had turned, but everyone knew the Arcturians would respond with greater force. The response came in the form of Commander Drac, an Arcturian elite warrior dispatched by the Empire's highest authorities. His mandate was simple: crush the human resistance by any means necessary. Drac brought with him technologies the humans hadn't encountered before, weapons designed specifically to counter sync suits and neural interfaces. The first engagement between his forces and Reed's team ended in a human retreat. "They're adapting," West told Miller during an emergency briefing. "But they're still thinking like Arcturians, looking for technological solutions rather than tactical ones." Miller nodded. "Then we need to take the fight somewhere they don't expect." He pointed to the display showing Earth's moon. "We take the lunar base. With those resources, we can build enough ships to take the war to their territory." The battle for the moon became the greatest test of human resilience. Arcturian forces held every advantage: superior numbers, established defenses, and the vacuum of space that should have limited human adaptability. But Miller's fleet, using unpredictable jump patterns that defied Arcturian battle computers, broke through their orbital defenses. Reed led a ground team equipped with next-generation sync suits designed for vacuum operations. The fighting was brutal, with losses on both sides. Yet hour by hour, humans pushed forward, their tactics evolving faster than the Arcturians could counter. When Reed planted the Earth flag on the lunar surface, the image was broadcast to every resistance cell on the planet. The message was clear: humanity wasn't just surviving, it was winning. Across the galaxy, news of the primitive species that had successfully repelled the mighty Arcturian Empire spread among subjugated worlds. For the first time in centuries, the word resistance was spoken with hope rather than despair. The message came without warning. A data packet slipped through the Arcturian communication blockade, encoded in a way that suggested intimate knowledge of both human and Arcturian protocols. Miller stared at the decoded contents, his expression shifting from suspicion to hope. "They call themselves the Nebulon," he told Dr. West, displaying the strange, flowing script that had been translated into English. "Apparently, they've been watching our resistance. They want to meet." West frowned, studying the data. "It could be an Arcturian trap." "Maybe," Miller agreed. "But if it's genuine, if there are others out there willing to stand against the Arcturians, we can't afford to ignore it," West finished. 3 days later, Miller and a small team took the Horizon to the coordinates provided, an asteroid belt at the edge of the solar system. They waited, weapons charged, ready for either diplomacy or combat. A ship emerged from behind a large asteroid. It was unlike any vessel they had seen, organic in appearance, with flowing lines that suggested it had been grown rather than built. It made no aggressive moves, simply drifting closer until communication range was established. The being that appeared on their view screen had translucent blue skin and large, multifaceted eyes. It spoke in a melodic voice, the words translated by the system they had provided in their message. "I am Envoy Rill of the Nebulon Remnant," the alien said. "We have watched your species fight when others would have surrendered. You give us hope." The meeting lasted hours. The Nebulon, they learned, had once controlled dozens of star systems before the Arcturian Empire annexed them. Now reduced to a scattered resistance, they had been waiting for an opportunity to strike back. Earth's unexpected success had provided that opportunity. "You are not alone," Rill explained. "Many species chafe under Arcturian rule, but none have successfully resisted until you." When Miller returned to Earth, he brought not only Nebulon technology, but representatives from 3 other species who had been monitoring humanity's resistance. Earth's lunar base quickly became an interstellar headquarters for the growing alliance. Reed found himself training alien fighters in human guerrilla tactics. The concept of individual initiative was revolutionary to species long dominated by the rigid Arcturian hierarchy. "They don't think like us," Reed explained to a group of soldiers that included humans, Nebulons, and 2 other alien species. "They expect patterns. Give them chaos instead." Dr. West worked with Nebulon engineers, combining their organic technology with human sync systems. The resulting hybrid technology exceeded anything either species could have developed alone. The Arcturians made a fundamental mistake, West told Miller as they observed the integrated teams working together. They built their empire on the assumption that technological superiority guarantees victory, and overlooked the power of diversity, Miller added. The alliance grew stronger each day, but they knew the Arcturians would not accept defeat easily. Reports from Nebulon intelligence networks indicated that the Arcturian Council was divided on how to handle the human problem. Some advocated complete withdrawal to avoid further embarrassment. Others demanded Earth's immediate destruction as an example to other potential rebels. The decision came 6 months after the formation of the alliance. A massive Arcturian fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, larger than anything they had deployed before. At its center was a ship of unprecedented size, bearing the markings of Arcturian High Command. A transmission reached Earth on all frequencies. The 3-eyed Arcturian, who appeared, wore ornate armor that marked him as far more senior than any they had encountered before. "I am Grand Admiral Zol," the Arcturian announced. Your resistance has become an inconvenience that the Empire will no longer tolerate. You have one planetary rotation to surrender unconditionally before we demonstrate the consequences of defiance. Monitoring stations detected that the massive command ship carried a weapon unlike anything in the Arcturian arsenal, something that drew power directly from space-time itself. "It's a planet killer," Rill whispered, recognition and fear in the Nebulon's voice. "They used one to destroy our homeworld when we first resisted." Miller looked at the assembled Alliance leadership, human and alien alike. They had come too far to surrender, yet facing such a weapon seemed hopeless. "They still think they can break us with fear," he said finally. "They still don't understand what they're fighting." The demonstration came without warning. A beam of energy, visible even from Earth, struck Mars. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the red planet began to glow, its surface cracking like an eggshell as its core destabilized. Within minutes, Mars was reduced to an expanding field of debris. Billions watched in horror as mankind's first colony world died. Though only 5,000 people had lived on the Martian outposts, each death was a devastating blow. "This is what resistance brings," Grand Admiral Zoll's voice echoed through every communication device on Earth. "Surrender now, and Earth will be spared." The Alliance leadership gathered in their underground headquarters beneath the lunar surface. The mood was grim as Miller entered the room. "We need to buy time," he said without preamble. "I'm going to offer myself as a negotiator." "It's suicide," Reed objected. "Probably," Miller agreed. "But while Zoll is focused on me, you'll lead a team to infiltrate his flagship." Dr. West stepped forward, holding a small device. "This is what we've been working on. A virus designed to exploit the synchronization gap in Arcturian systems. It will temporarily disable their entire fleet, including the planet killer." The plan took shape quickly. Miller would appear to broker Earth's surrender, keeping Zoll's attention while Reed's team, a mix of humans and aliens specially chosen for their abilities, would board the flagship using Nebulon stealth technology. 24 hours later, Miller stood alone on a shuttle approaching the massive Arcturian command ship. His voice was broadcast to Earth and the Alliance forces hidden throughout the solar system. "I come to discuss terms," he announced, sounding defeated. "Earth cannot withstand your power, Admiral Zoll." The shuttle was drawn into a massive hangar. Arcturian guards surrounded Miller, escorting him through corridors designed to intimidate with their scale and grandeur. Finally, he stood before Zoll himself, an imposing figure flanked by elite warriors. "The great human leader," Zoll said mockingly. "Not so defiant now." Miller bowed his head. "We wish to preserve what remains of our world." While they spoke, Reed's team had already breached the outer hull of the flagship. Using schematics provided by Nebulon Intelligence, they moved silently toward the central computer core. They encountered resistance, Arcturian security forces that fought with desperate ferocity, as if sensing this was no ordinary incursion. "We're 3 levels away from the core," Reed whispered into his communication device. "Heavy resistance." In the command chamber, Miller was deliberately drawing out negotiations, demanding clarifications and protections that he knew Zoll would never grant. The Arcturian admiral was growing visibly impatient. "Enough delays," Zoll finally snapped. "You will accept our terms or watch your planet die." "Just one more question," Miller said. "Did you ever wonder why we kept fighting when logic said we should surrender?" Before Zoll could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Admiral's 3 eyes widened as reports flooded in of intruders near the computer core. Reed and his team had reached their objective, but at terrible cost. Half the team was dead or wounded, and Arcturian reinforcements were closing in from all directions. The computer core was protected by energy fields they hadn't anticipated. "We can't reach it," Reed reported grimly, taking cover as energy blasts struck around him. "The shielding is too strong." Dr. West's voice came through his communicator. "There's another way. A manual override. But someone would need tow." "I see it," Reed interrupted, spotting a control junction. It was exposed, with no cover between his position and the target. Reaching it meant certain death. He looked at his remaining team members. "Get ready to install the virus. I'll handle the shields." Before anyone could stop him, Reed charged across the open space. Energy blasts struck him multiple times, his sync suit absorbing damage until it failed. Somehow, he reached the junction, his hands moving across the controls even as his strength faded. The shields dropped. The virus was uploaded. Throughout the Arcturian fleet, systems began to fail. Ships drifted powerless. The planet killer weapon went dark. In the command chamber, Miller stood tall before the raging admiral. "That," he said quietly, "is why we kept fighting." Reed never saw the victory he had helped secure. His final act had saved Earth and ignited a revolution that would sweep across the stars. 3 years had passed since the day Mars died, and humanity showed the galaxy it would not be conquered. The view from Admiral Miller's office window revealed an Earth still bearing scars of war, but also signs of remarkable recovery. Construction crews, some human, some distinctly not, worked together rebuilding cities with a blend of technologies from a dozen worlds. Miller turned from the window as Dr. West entered. She had changed over the years, her once purely scientific focus now balanced with diplomatic skill, earned from countless negotiations with alien allies. "The fleet is assembled," she said. "The Nebulon ships arrived this morning. Even the Crawl sent 3 war vessels." Miller nodded. "And our flagship. The Horizon Asterisk is ready. Reed's name looks good on her hull." They shared a moment of silence for their fallen friend. The Reed had been rebuilt from the original Horizon Asterisk, now serving as the command vessel for the largest Allied fleet ever assembled. Today, it would launch the final offensive against the Arcturian homeworld. The alliance had grown steadily since that pivotal day when Reed sacrificed himself to deploy the virus. As Arcturian ships went dark across the galaxy, subjugated species rose up in coordinated rebellion. Planets that had suffered centuries of oppression threw off their masters in weeks. The Arcturian Empire, once spanning 1,000 worlds, had collapsed into a fraction of its former territory. Only the core systems remained under their control, defended by desperate forces fighting to preserve their way of life. "The Emperor still refuses to discuss surrender terms," West said, reviewing the latest intelligence. "Their propaganda tells their people we're coming to exterminate them." "Then we'll have to show them otherwise," Miller replied. Hours later, the Allied fleet emerged from jump points surrounding the Arcturian home system. The Reed led the formation, its human crew working in perfect synchronization with technology that blended the best innovations from a dozen species. The Arcturian defense fleet moved to intercept, still formidable, but a shadow of their former might. Their tactics remained rigid, predictable to enemies who had spent years studying their weaknesses. The battle was fierce but one-sided. Human sync pilots, their natural adaptability enhanced by alien technology, outmaneuvered Arcturian formations. Nebulon organic ships absorbed damage that would have destroyed conventional vessels. The Crawl, once feared warriors who had been reduced to servants, fought with centuries of pent-up rage. Within hours, the path to the Arcturian homeworld lay open. The planet, a gleaming jewel of a world covered in metallic cities, had never known invasion in its thousands of years of history. As the Reed entered orbit, Miller received a transmission from the Imperial Palace itself. "This is Emperor Xol of the Arcturian Dominion," came a voice tinged with both pride and fear. "I demand to speak with the human leader." Miller agreed to meet face-to-face, a risk, but one that carried symbolic importance. He descended to the surface with a small security team, including Dr. West, who insisted on coming despite the danger. The Imperial Palace was a marvel of engineering, with soaring spires that seemed to defy gravity. Emperor Xol waited on a throne that now seemed absurdly grand for a ruler who had lost an empire. "Have you come to destroy us as we would have destroyed you?" the Emperor asked without preamble. Miller approached slowly, studying the being who had ordered the destruction of Mars. Sol seemed smaller than expected, his 3 eyes clouded with age and worry. "No," Miller said simply. "We've come to end the war." He presented the terms. The Arcturian Empire would be dissolved, replaced by a galactic council where all species would have equal representation. The Arcturians would surrender their planet-killer technology and other weapons of mass destruction. In exchange, they would retain their homeworld and receive the same rights as all other council members. "You offer mercy when you could demand vengeance," Sol said, clearly surprised. "Why?" "Because exterminating you would make us what we fought against," Miller replied. "We didn't fight for revenge. We fought for freedom, for everyone." 1 month later, representatives from 50 formerly subjugated species gathered on Earth to sign the founding charter of the new Galactic Council. The Arcturian delegates sat equal among them, no longer conqueror or conquered. At the ceremony, Miller unveiled a memorial to those lost in the war. At its center stood a statue of Tom Reed, his hand extended not in threat, but in offering, a symbol of humanity's greatest strength. "They thought we were weak," Miller said in his address to the assembled delegates and the billions watching across the stars. "They measured strength by technology alone and found us wanting. What they failed to understand was that true strength comes not from weapons, but from courage, adaptability, and compassion." He looked across the faces, human and alien alike, united in a peace that had seemed impossible just years before. "That is the legacy we carry forward among the stars."